Good day, and welcome to Diksha. On today's episode, we are going to look at the ideas which guide our society. So, as discussed in previous episodes about the caste system and how it impacts our society and social development, I looked at, let's say, the mentalities in the society which form ideas or which are interested in maintaining a holistic idea or a holistic society. Now, what I mean by this is that there are people who will, in their idea forming process, look at the benefits and shortfalls of an idea in maintaining a whole society. Now, obviously, when people think or plan like this, they would not be able to plan everything that happens in society. So obviously we'll have the sub cultures of the society, which would have their individuals who plan or look at the holistic ideals of that subculture, and all the cultures make up our society. So if we follow the process from the base level, that all the subcultures within our community, so let's say farming culture and the clothes making culture and the maintenance the road and the drainage maintenance culture and the school culture and the worker culture or mentality, all these have their own cultures and their ideals will add up to form a work ideal, let's say, or a social ideal, what is ideal for the society on a community level. And then from that level, community will look at the ideals, the best ideals in those communities, and those will add up to what is a good ideal for that area or that region. And from there, the ideals build on each other, and we have the overall guiding ideal, which guides the entire population. We can say worldwide, we can say nationwide, but it guides the subcultures, all the subcultures. Now, it is key to understand when an ideal is fragmented or applies to a subculture, and when an ideal applies to the holistic culture of society. Because when we begin to apply a fragmented ideal to the holistic system, we begin to corrupt the social system, or we begin to introduce less ideal ideas into our social structure. And what do I mean by this? Is simple. And we see it happening a lot, which I believe is what directly leads to crime. It directly leads to abuses, and it directly leads to neglect. So what happens is, I as an individual have an ideal that I apply to me. It's in my self-interest. But because of my position, I am able to affect a wide range of people. Now, on my position, I'll be parallel with other people's in similar position. Probably not in similar fields, but all in similar, who have similar levels of influence. But if I don't develop this ideal within myself and look at the faults and shortcomings and plan properly, I begin to introduce this ideal as what I believe to be right without properly analyzing this ideal. So for example, let's say I am a lawyer, and I begin to introduce an ideal that benefits me as a lawyer. It doesn't benefit me as a human being. It doesn't benefit me as a member of that level of I don't want to say status, but the level of involvement in the affairs of everyday lives of people. Then if I begin to promote the ideal that benefits me as a lawyer and neglects the ideals or the benefits to other people which are directly affected by my benefit, then I begin to corrupt the system, which is my position is one where my lack of ideals affects people negatively and my positive ideals affects people positively. Just solely based on the position. And as I begin to influence other people in similar positions as me, so all my lawyer friends and judges and people who are involved in the, let's say, the legal system, then I begin to corrupt the legal system simply based on the ideals I'm presenting, which have not been thoroughly thought through. They are simply based on benefiting me. What happens after a short period of time? Then the whole judicial system becomes corrupted, simply because we began introducing ideals that benefited lawyers, not people. It can be applied to anything, so let's not go so high up. Let's say we are looking at farming. So very simple, that I plant produce and I sell produce wholesale. That's all. I'm not influencing any great part of society in terms of the structure of society. But I begin to practice things that benefit me as a farmer. So I begin using substandard fertilizers and begin using unapproved insecticides that could potentially poison the produce I'm making, but it makes it look greener and riper and fuller. So I get a higher price for my produce. And then the other farmers, they see what I am doing. I'm getting a higher price. I'm benefiting. So they start to do it. So what happens over a period of time? The farming system or the farming culture has become corrupted simply because each farmer is doing something to benefit themselves. Well, what happens after that? Well, then the population begins to get poisoned from the food being produced because the food becomes substandard and not the focus, but rather the money and the profit becomes the focus. So the farmer looks at that he wants to produce the most profit rather than produce good food. So it can be applied to all scenarios as long as an individual begins to make a system that only benefits themselves, and other like-minded individuals begin to follow the example and put systems in place to benefit themselves, then the ideal that rises to the top of the structure, that subculture, benefits the individual over supporting the social structure. And one can, from following this example, one can easily see how that will corrupt society. So, because people will begin, in any scenario, if I get in an accident on the street, well, I am going to act in a way that benefits me as an individual. I'm going to do what I want to benefit me solely, without taking into consideration the other person involved or people involved, the consequences of my actions, because I am only concerned with my sole benefit. And even in our mentality to fix fragmented ideals in society, we always look at the other people's fragmented ideals and say, well, they should fix their flaws and leave me to my flaws. We hear it all over that we'll show a bad habit or a bad a bad outcome from somebody else and say, well, they should fix this, they should fix their house, and house metaphorically, they should get their things in order before they correct me. Well, if I'm using that logic, well, then I should fix my faults before I seek to correct anybody else. So, and I'm not saying we should go fault finding. I'm saying we should look at the ideals which have a consequence that are seen to be negative. And that takes some real analysis. It's not a superficial analysis, because it is rooted in survival. It is rooted in what is best for me. But I think people don't realize that what I do to benefit me ripples through and affects other people. And then when they see that I am only acting for myself, then they begin acting for themselves, because they realize, as the example of the farmer and the lawyer, well, if they are acting for their self, in their self-interest and benefiting, then it is in my interest to act only for myself. Well, then if everybody is doing that, well, what happens to the social ideals and the social structure? It begins to collapse. We'll see a rise in crime. We'll see a rise in aggression. And generally speaking, a drop in, let's say, social consciousness. That we begin to be unaware of how our actions affect each other on the social level. So this is why I think it is better to look at holistic ideals rather than fragmented ideals. So probably the course we should take, or a better plan would be to look at what ideals would benefit our society as a whole, the structure as a whole, and then look at the ideals that will benefit me as an individual. So if I say, okay, well, for the farming, I as a farmer say, it will be in my best interest if the people who eat my produce, they are healthy and they live long, because that would mean, and they enjoy my food, because that would mean they will buy more food from me. So I'm not looking to maximize my profit. I'm saying, if I produce something that is good, people will benefit and they will come back to me. Right? In the example of the lawyer, if I practice law properly, then I uphold the law of the country. I become to embody the positive outcome of law. So, nothing against lawyers, nothing against farmers, I'm just saying. So that was today's episode on Diksha. My name is Omkar. If you have any comments about today's program or any program on Sankhya Television, please feel free to drop a comment on our Facebook page. You can also visit my Facebook page. And I will see you next time.